Hi, I'm here to rank characters from Hazbin Hotel. The show has one of the best ensembles that I've seen in a long time. There are a lot of characters that I really care about, and I believe that I have done 18 character reviews about Hazbin Hotel characters, and that really shows how amazing the characters in the show are and how many great ones there are. And I wanted to rank all of the characters that I cared enough about to do a review for. But before I get to those characters, I want to mention the characters that I didn't do a review for, and they're characters that I don't consider myself fans of so far. If they have really interesting roles in future episodes, I could end up being a fan of them. So far, they aren't characters that have done that much. So I could eventually change my opinion about them, and I could end up having enough characters for a top 20 list. Well, first off, I do want to mention Lilith, and I didn't do a review for her simply because she hasn't done enough for me to really have huge opinions about her. I imagine that she's going to be a really interesting, important character in future episodes, and I wouldn't be surprised if she ended up being a character that I like enough to include in a ranking. Uh, but because she hasn't had that much screen time, it's hard for me to care too much about her. But I certainly do want to see what she ends up doing in the show. Uh, Katie Killjoy is not a character that I like that much. She has some amusing moments, but I do think she's a character that feels annoying to a certain extent. She doesn't appeal that much to me. And Tom Trench also has some amusing moments, but there's not a lot that really gives me a huge impact. Mimsy has a couple of amusing moments, but she does come across as a not very fun character to have around, and I don't really care about her that much. And Rosie's a character that is helpful to characters and is helpful to the plot, but she just doesn't leave a huge impact on me. I just don't find her character to be that exciting. And so those are characters that haven't made big impressions on me, but they could eventually become characters that I like. But there are 18 characters in Hazbin Hotel that have already been characters that appeal to me. And in 18th place is Cherry Bomb, and her being in 18th place really shows how fantastic the character ensemble in Hazbin Hotel is, because Cherry Bomb is a pretty good character. Uh, she has a fun personality, and her interactions with Anthony are somewhat touching. She does come across as not that great of a friend in some instances, but there are other instances where it seems like she really does care, and there's a little bit of nuance to her. So she's a pretty enjoyable character so far, and if she gets more screen time, she could go higher up on the ranking. She's not necessarily a character that I get super excited about when she shows up, but she is a character that I do enjoy. In 17th place, and I feel like a lot of fans would want this character to be much higher, uh, is Nifty. And Nifty is a character that is a character that shows up a lot, has a good amount of screen time. I think that Nifty is a consistently amusing character, and I do like those amusing moments that she brings to the show. But for the most part, that's what she just feels like a character that just has funny moments. There's not a lot of interesting stuff in terms of storylines for her. She gets one incredibly important moment towards the end of the first season, but other than that, she's just a funny character. And characters like that can often be annoying for me, or characters I don't really care about, and I actually do enjoy Nifty's character, and her being in 17th place really shows that there are a lot of great characters in Hazbin Hotel. In 16th place is Emily, and she's a character that could potentially get higher on the ranking depending on what's done with her moving forward. She's a really likable character, and she has already had some growth where she learns the truth about what's been going on, and she seems like a character that really wants to be proactive, and not a lot of that has been seen yet. But if she becomes more proactive and there's more stuff showing where she could help the lead character, she could get much higher on the ranking. She hasn't done quite enough to get into the top 15, but she could potentially get there. And in 15th place is Sarah, and she's another character that I could see moving up in the ranking depending on what's done with her, because she's a character that really interests me. And she's a character where I don't fully know what her morality is going to be, because Sarah seems to have some compassion and care for Emily and wants to do what she thinks is right, but she's responsible for a lot of the corrupt, horrible things that are done. And with her having such a big leadership role, she has the potential to become the main villain of the series. And I don't know if that'll happen. If it does, she could get much higher in the rank and become an even more interesting character than she already is. So far, I think she is a really interesting, complicated character, and I really do like what she brings. So she's a character that I think is going to get higher in the ranking, but I don't know for sure yet. In 14th place is Carmilla Carmine, who is a character that really helps the plot a lot, and she gets to sing a lot. I believe she's already gotten to sing 3 songs, which is pretty impressive for a character that isn't in the show that much, but she's a character that I thought could have been annoying because she has the ability to help the heroes, and I thought she wasn't going to for a moment, but she actually ends up being very helpful. She's a very cool character that's been adding a lot, so very solid character. In 13th place is a character I could definitely see going higher in the ranking, because it seems like this character is going to be much more important in future episodes, is Lute. She's a really cool antagonist character that's very easy to root against, but she has a very interesting way of going about things, a very strong, exciting rivalry going on with Vaggie, and she seems like she has potential to be the main villain too, and I'm really interested about what's going to be done with her. And so far, she's been more of a supporting antagonist and hasn't quite gotten to show her full potential, but if her full potential is explored, she could move up on the ranking. In 12th place is Velvet. I really enjoy the V's. Velvet is my least favorite of the V's because she doesn't impact the plot in as interesting of ways as the other 2 members of the V's, but she's a very stylish character, a very consistently fun character. I have a lot of fun when she's on screen, and I wouldn't be surprised if she got more to do in future episodes, but because she hasn't gotten to do too much so far, she hasn't quite made it into the top 10. She could potentially get into the top 10, but there are a lot of characters I could see potentially getting in the top 10, so it could be crowded, but so far I really do enjoy her character. And another reason why she isn't higher is because there's so many characters that I enjoy. It's hard to get all the characters that I really like into my top 10, even though I really want to. In 11th place is a character that I think the fans would want to be much higher, and is a character that I do really like, but just didn't quite make it into my top 10, and it's Husk. And I do want to make it clear, I love Keith David so much, and if this was just a ranking of character voices, Husk could potentially be number one. I love Keith David's voice that much, and I just think he's a delight to listen to and one of the greatest voice actors of all time. When it comes to Husk's character, with him being such a grumpy character, and for understandable reasons, but still, with him being as grumpy as he is, he's not as pleasant of a character as some other characters, which does prevent him from being in my top 10, unfortunately. But I do really like his friendship with Anthony. I think they have so many strong interactions and they really bring out some good stuff in each other. And if more of their interactions are explored, Husk could move up in the ranking. And I don't know. I know that Husk is a very charming character that does end up being likable, but he didn't quite make it into my top 10, unfortunately. In 10th place is a character that I think a majority of fans would have much higher, and is a character that I really like, a character that is so much fun and has a lot of nuance, but didn't get super high in my ranking. Number 10 is Anthony Angel Dust, and I think he's often a hilarious character, and he's a character that at first I thought was really funny, but it seemed kind of shallow. But when his nuance was explored and his tragic backstory was explored, he really became a much more likable, appealing character to me, and I really do like him. I think he's very consistently entertaining. I am very much a fan of his character, but he just barely made the top 10 because there are so many characters in Hazbin Hotel that I love, and even though I do think Angel Dust is often hilarious, there are some of crass remarks from him that I'm not the biggest fan of, but for the most part I think he's a really enjoyable character and I really like what he brings to the show. So I know that having Angel just barely in the top 10, that could be a very huge hot take, but I am very much a fan of his character. And I suspect this ranking would go on for a long time because I have very passionate feelings about Hazbin Hotel, and at the time I don't believe I can do reviews and rankings longer than 15 minutes, so this will have to be more than one part. But you can let me know what you think about some of the characters that didn't make the ranking, some characters that made the ranking so far. You can let me know what you think of my rankings and share your opinions.